So today we're going to cover chapter 14, which is fruits. So we covered vegetables and now we'll cover fruits. So the definition of fruit is the edible part of a plant that develops from a flower. And you already know this, I'm sure, but people should eat a minimum of 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day, which includes 3 servings of vegetables and 2 fruits. So this is really important for your menu planning project. There are 3 different classifications of fruits according to your textbook: simple, aggregate, and multiple. And this is determined by the flower. So simple fruits develop from one flower, and these consist of drupes, which are the fruit with seeds encased in a pit. So those are going to be your stone fruit: apricots, cherries, peaches, plums. Then you have your palms, which are fruit with seeds in the center core. So think apples, pears. Then there are another classification called aggregate, and this type of fruit develops from several ovaries of one flower. So think lots of seeds, like blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. And then there's also multiple, and this is when the fruit develops from a cluster of several flowers. And so those are going to be things like pineapples and figs. So just a way to remember your aggregates: those have the seeds on the outside. And so just a little refresher: is rhubarb a fruit? No, it's a vegetable because we eat the stem. And actually the leaves of the rhubarb plant are poisonous. Very interesting. So the composition of fruit, the cellular structure is really similar to those of vegetables, and you can see that structure in chapter 13, which we covered. But fruits contain organic acids, which can be volatile or non-volatile. They contain 3 types of pectic substances as well: protopectin, pectin, and pectic acid. And they contain phenolic compounds, which are also known as tannins. So if you're familiar with wine at all, that's something people talk about with wine, tannins, and wine comes from grapes, so it makes sense. So the organic acids, so the volatile acids, so these vaporize during heating, but the non-volatile acids do not vaporize, and they leach out when cooked in water. And some common acids in fruits include citric acid, which is found in lemons, limes, grapefruits, and tomatoes; malic acid, found in apples, apricots, cherries, pears, strawberries; tartaric acid, found in grapes; oxalic is found in rhubarb; and benzoic, found in cranberries. Now remember, rhubarb is structurally a vegetable, but we classify it as a fruit nutritionally. So the acidity of fruits are pretty acidic. So most of them have a pH of less than 5. And tartness is related to the acid content, like we talked about in chapter 1. So some have the lowest pH of fruits is 2, and some of the lower pH fruits are going to be your lemons, limes, and cranberries. And then there's least acidic fruits, which some can be considered more bland or sweet, depending on the season for them. And those are going to have a pH of greater than 4.5. And most often they're served like vegetables. So here we're talking about our squash, cucumbers, those kinds of fruits. So let's talk about pectic substances. So pectic substances are also known as polysaccharides. And if you remember from chapter 3, and these act as cell cement, partially, so they're responsible for the firmness and the structure. So think about a fruit that's less ripe versus a fruit that's ripe. It's going to have a different texture, right? So this is the reasoning. So protopectin, which is the large insoluble molecule in young fruit, so this is your underripe fruit. And the enzymes transform into pectin as the fruit ripens. And protopectin does not contribute to gelling. Write that down. Pectin, on the other hand, is produced at the height of ripeness and extracted from the cell's walls to make jams and jellies. So because we know that pectin is able to make jams and jellies, we know that contributes to gelling. And how it does that is by bonding together to form a net-like solid structure that traps water and forms a gel. So protopectin, unripe fruit or young fruit. Pectin, height of ripeness. Then once we get overripe, we have pectic acid. And this does not contribute to gelling. So we'll look at a diagram in just a moment. Another interesting thing that is a part of fruit that is very high in pectin is actually the white inner rind of citrus fruits called the albedo. And this is can be used as a source of pectin and also in aromatic oils. So if you've ever made orange marmalade or like a candied, some type of lemon rind item, you might not have to add as much pectin or as much gelatin because of that rind. So here you can see the diagram of how the pectic substances mature. So you have your protopectin in your immature fruit, no jelly, your pectin in your ripe fruit, which gels, and then your pectic acid in the overripe fruit, also no jelly. Remember these. So the other thing in fruit composition is the phenolic compounds, and these are responsible for browning and bruising of certain fruits. So tannins are found mostly in unripe fruits, and they give them a bitter taste and leave that astringent feeling in your mouth, that feeling on the sides of your tongues, and some fruits contain some fruits that contain these phenolic compounds include apples, apricots, avocados, grapes, peaches, strawberries, so really a lot of different fruits. And the degree in which how much phenolic compounds a fruit has will be a contributing factor in enzymatic browning. So enzymatic browning is that browning that you see when you cut an apple and you leave it out. And what you need for enzymatic browning in order to take place is you need the presence of phenolic compounds, which can be found within the cells of the fruit. You need polyphenol oxidase, which is an enzyme that oxidizes phenolic compounds. And then you need oxygen, which enters the cells when the fruit is cut or bruised. So I think you probably have all seen an apple or an avocado or some other type of fruit that goes brown when it's sitting out. And these are the things that happen. This is the reaction called enzymatic browning. And these are the things that need to be present in order for that reaction to happen. And so the enzyme, polyphenol oxidase, turns the color of the phenolic compounds from a clear to a brown or a melanin color. And this happens more easily in fruits that have a greater amount of phenolic compounds. So that's enzymatic browning. Know what 3 things are needed for enzymatic browning. You'll cover more of enzymatic browning in advanced food science. And here's just a picture of what we're talking about here. And there are ways to prevent enzymatic browning. One is with an acidic pH because it prevents that enzyme from working. So putting lemon juice on apple. Another way is to prevent the oxygen from getting to the apple or the fruit. So tightly wrapping in plastic wrap, coating with sugar and with a sugar solution. These kinds of things will help prevent that browning. And again, you'll talk more about this in advanced food science. So fruits act as functional foods and contribute toward good health. Some fruits, but not all of them, are rich in vitamins and minerals. And phytochemicals that act as antioxidants, for example, lycopene, which we've talked about a bunch, anthocyanins, which protect normal cells from damage. These are found in blueberries. Vitamins A, C, and E, which are powerful antioxidants and have anti-inflammatory effects. So vitamin A is found in our carotenoids that we talked about in our vegetable chapter. And then polyphenols, which are linked to decreased risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, and stroke. And finally, fiber, which is linked to decreased risk of colon cancer and high blood pressure. So really similar to that list that we saw with the vegetables. So there are things that might be added to fruits to prevent browning. So this will be dried fruits, or sometimes if you see fruits that are packaged in the grocery store that have already been cut, they might have sulfites, sorbates, or benzoates added. And the reason being is to prevent that browning that we talked about, enzymatic browning. Some people are sensitive to sulfites, so vitamin C could be used instead, or ascorbic acid. So if you're ever reading, I feel like this happens really frequently. If you're looking at a package of like sliced apple, you're definitely going to see some ascorbic acid, or vitamin C, because they are going to want to prevent that browning. I think less the sulfites are used at this point because a lot of people are sensitive to sulfites. But sulfur dioxide could be added to light raisins to prevent enzymatic browning from turning them dark. Sodium sulfite, sodium bisulfite, potassium bisulfite, sodium metabisulfite, and potassium metabisulfite. These are all different sulfites you might see on packaging. So if you start to read some labels, I guarantee you're going to see a couple of these sulfites in there. Ascorbic acid, or sorbate, this is an antifungal agent that helps preserve foods, so you might see that as well. And benzoic acid, this is a preservative often used in dry fruits. So, like vegetables, grading fruits is voluntary. USDA grades of fresh fruit there's 4 of them. So US Fancy, which is the best grade, US number 1, number 2, and number 3. And this is the same as with vegetables. And then the way they're graded is based on these items here. Canned or frozen fruit is graded the same way as canned vegetables. So there's US grade A, or fancy, and these are like your nicest ones that you might want to use in desserts or salad. Then there's B, or choice, which is processed, and those aren't going to be quite as nice. You might still be able to get away with those in some foods where you could see them, but really if you are using US grade C or standard, you kind of want to hide those. So those will be used in like puddings or pies. But again, voluntary. So get to know your fruits, pages 290 and 298, just like vegetables. And so here is something interesting. I'm sure you've seen in the marketplace superfruits. And so goji and acai, I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right, claim that they increase energy levels, protect the heart from chronic disease, and improve overall well-being. And these berries do contain high levels of antioxidants, which is great. But there isn't sufficient evidence to support these claims, at least as of 2015. I'd be interested to look into this to see what evidence might be in existence now since this book was published, but at that time there wasn't enough evidence to support that. Blueberries are said to protect against oxidative stress, reduce learning impairment, boost memory, and possibly partially protect against Alzheimer's disease. But this research has only been done in rats so far, at least as of 2015 again. Cranberry juice, actually, these studies have been proven to prevent urinary tract infections, and it has to be supplements of or 100% cranberry juice. There is no studies who have proven cranberries to be effective in treatment of urinary tract infections, so only prevention. And then pomegranate is actually richer in antioxidants than blueberries or cranberries. So it may reduce the risk of inflammatory arthritis and may reduce cell division in certain cancers. But again, so this has only been done in vitro studies, at least as of 2015. If you are interested in any of these and would like to look into them, I'd be curious to see what your findings are. So please let me know. We're going to pause here and pick up with the next recording.